Hello everyone, I'm Dawn and welcome back to my video series. Today we're going to focus on specialization and the division of labor, the genius and hidden power of doing one job well. In the last episode, we talked about four factors of production: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Today, let's see how these resources come together in the production process and how the clever idea of specialization and division of labor changed the world forever. So, production is the process of turning inputs, which would be our resources, into outputs, which would be things that we want to buy or desire to have. Productivity measures how efficient this production process is. In reality, this process can be made far more efficient through specialization. When individuals, firms, or even whole countries focus on producing a limited range of goods or tasks that they're best at. And as for the division of labor, it means dividing an entire production process into distinct tasks and each performed by different teams of workers. The idea of specialization is not new. In 1776, the famous Scottish economist Adam Smith, in his book The Wealth of Nations, described a pin factory. He observed that when workers divided the job of making pins into simple steps, drawing the wire, cutting it, sharpening it, and so on, their combined output increased massively. One worker on his own could perhaps make 20 pins a day, so 10 workers can make 200 pins a day without specialization. However, 10 specialized workers dividing the task could produce 38,000 pins per day. That is the power of specialization, dramatic gains in productivity. More than a century later, Henry Ford put this idea into motion literally in his car factory. In 1913, he introduced the moving assembly line, where each worker performed one simple repetitive task as the car moved along the line. The result? The time needed to assemble one car dropped from over 12 hours to just around 90 minutes. This innovation was influenced by Adam Smith's theory of the division of labor and further developed under Frederick Taylor's scientific management, which emphasized efficiency and precise measurement of each task. The advantages of specialization and division of labor are apparent. For example, higher productivity. When workers specialize in one task, they become faster and more skilled at doing it. They gain experience through repetition, they make fewer mistakes, and they don't waste time switching between jobs. This raises labor productivity, which means more output per worker per period of time. At the firm and the national level, higher productivity leads to total higher output, which helps drive economic growth. Specialization also increases efficiency, both technical efficiency and allocative efficiency. Technical efficiency or productive efficiency improves because resources are used more effectively. For example, firms can invest in machinery designed for one specific task, which helps them save time and reduce costs. Allocative efficiency improves because each producer focuses on what they are relatively best at doing. This allows society's resources to be used in the most productive way possible. And when firms become more efficient, they begin to grow and expand. They start to enjoy internal economies of scale, where their average total cost of production is reduced. And this allows them to charge lower prices for consumers, making goods more affordable. Because specialization raises productivity and output, workers can earn higher wages, firms can make greater profit, and government can collect more taxes. As a result, national income rises and people enjoy a higher material standard of living. When countries specialize in producing goods when they have comparative advantage, that is, when their opportunity cost is lowest, they can trade with one another, each other, to obtain everything else they need. This makes global production more efficient and allows all countries involved to benefit from a higher total output and from trading with each other and one another. By focusing on a single task or industry, workers and firms develop deep expertise. This encourages innovation, new methods, and better tools, as well as improved technology. Specialization allows firms to make better use of capital equipment. When workers perform the same task repeatedly, firms can invest in highly specialized machinery that perfectly fits that production process. And this is known as a capital deepening process, and it supports industrial development and long-term economic growth. However, specialization and division of labor are not perfect. They have their limitations. For example, when workers perform the same repetitive task every day, work can quickly become dull and uninspiring. This repetition reduces motivation and drops satisfaction. Over time, it may lead to carelessness, mistakes, or absenteeism, which can lower overall productivity and quality of output. It also affects workers' well being. A lack of variety and creativity can make people feel disconnected from their work, almost like a machine rather than a person. In short, the very system that boosts efficiency can also harm morale and make job less fulfilling, which is why many modern firms use job rotation or team-based production to keep workers engaged. Of course, specialization makes workers and firms highly skilled in one particular area, but that can also be a weakness. So, if market conditions change, technology evolves, or consumer preferences shift, specialized workers may find their skills no longer useful. This leads to occupational immobility and inflexibility. People cannot easily switch to new jobs. So, while specialization raises efficiency, it reduces flexibility and adaptability. Linked to that, specialization can make economies more vulnerable to long-term unemployment. When industries automate, relocate overseas, or experience decline in demand, specialized workers may take years to retrain or find alternative employment. At a national level, it can result in structural unemployment, a skills mismatch, when entire regions industry decline because their specialized skills are outdated or become obsolete. And that's why some economists warn that specialization, if not balanced with education and retraining opportunities, can actually widen income and wealth inequality and inequity in the long run. What's more, specialization creates over interdependence between workers, firms, regions, and countries. Well, this can create efficiency, enhance efficiency. It also makes the system more fragile. If one link in the production chain fails, everything can come to a standstill. For example, if one country that produces microchips face disruption, cars and phones manufacturers around the world may have to halt production entirely. This problem becomes even greater when the entire country rely on a narrow range of goods or exports, what economists call over-specialization. If global demand for that product falls, or new competitors appear, national income, employment, and growth can all suffer. So both firms and countries must strike a balance between efficiency of specialization and the security of diversification. Also, by focusing too narrowly on one task, workers can lose broader skills that might make them more adaptable or creative. Over time, this leads to decline in versatility across the labor force, making it harder to respond to changes. It also means that people have fewer opportunities to develop as individuals, reducing both human capital and job satisfaction over time. In addition, when production is split into many small, separate tasks, no single worker feels responsible for the final product, and this leads to lower attention to detail and maybe